In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, roughly 2,500 miles northeast of Australia, lie the ruins of a once great ancient city, Nan Madol, consisting of hundreds of man-made islets off the eastern coast of Micronesia. It has been dubbed the eighth wonder of the world.
The site of Nan Madol on the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia is one of the strangest places on the planet. It's an 11-square-mile complex composed of over 250 million tons of basalt logs that are floating on a submerged coral reef. They're 18 feet long, 4 feet in diameter, and are stacked 40 feet up in the air. Why did they do this, and how did they do this?
Today, the site lies abandoned and shunned by the local Micronesians, who consider it haunted.
Nan Madol is one of these disappeared civilizations. It's fascinatingly interesting. This seems to have been the center of power of a major civilization, and yet it also seems that it might have been built on earlier civilizations that are lost in time.
Since stone is difficult to accurately date, no one knows for certain when it was constructed or how it was built.
When you ask the local population, where were these blocks quarried? In unison, they will tell you from across the island, and they were flown across the island.
According to legend, twin sorcerers of giant proportions came down from the sky and floated above the site and positioned the basalt columns as they desired. A legend that's very similar to the same story at Pumapunku.
When I hear stories like that, I wonder, well, perhaps we have another example of what I refer to as misunderstood technology.
As with other sites like Pumapunku, Baalbek, and the Coricancha, legend says that these structures were not the first to exist here, but instead were built above a much older city.
The mystery of Nan Madol is even more intriguing when we factor in the local legend that states that it was built on an earlier civilization called the Kanamweso, which is submerged below water, but still has those same basalt megaliths.
Objects that appear to be basalt columns have in fact been found beneath the ocean at Nan Madol. And those who have studied the columns, both above and below the water, have discovered a curious electromagnetic anomaly.
There's a strong magnetic field in every single one of the 250 million tons of basalt there. You can take a compass and run it along these basalt blocks, and your compass will just spin as you move it along the blocks. Also, it's thought that the site itself is a special power spot and an energy vortex. And that's why Nan Madol is built there. And this legendary sunken city called Kanamweso as well.
The local population also reports many sightings of orbs and lights that have been seen hovering around Nan Madol. Is it because of the magnetic spectrum of Earth? And you have to wonder if through magnetism the stones were transported in the first place, because they were transported through the air.
Some ancient astronaut theorists suggest that elevated electromagnetic energy present at Nan Madol was not only a powerful tool used to move the giant basalt columns, but that it may also have been the reason that extraterrestrials helped the locals to build here in the first place.
Could it be that there was a sacred kind of part of the site there where they were connecting with the gods? You know, not just through visionary experiences, but actually something in the land, like a magnetic hotspot or a vortex.
We hear the word vortex in science fiction, popular culture, all the time, and a vortex is just a mathematical thing that describes a swirling motion. An electromagnetic field can be formed in a vortex. you could create a vortex that would enable transporting information from somewhere else to here at the speed of light or faster than the speed of light. And if there are places on the Earth where these types of vortexes may be stronger than others, you could see people going there to build structures that maybe altered the electromagnetic field of the local environment.
Was there even some kind of portal or vortex present in some of these sacred places? If that's the case, we have to question these principles of oracle sites, megalithic temples. Were they built to harness this, to be these communication portals between these different places?
There is no question in my mind that these are much older sites than we think, and that they were spots for extraterrestrial communication a long, long time ago.
Baltimore, Maryland, September 16th, 2019. A team of scientists, backed by the U.S. Department of State Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, completes a 6-month project to conduct the first LiDAR survey of this World Heritage Site. LiDAR utilizes laser wave pulses to create a 3D representation of an area and allows unprecedented access to otherwise impenetrable locations.
This recent LiDAR survey at Temwin Island and Nan Madol indicates that there was a specially designed irrigation system that could support people on this relatively small island adjacent to Pohnpei, and then Nan Madol is built there too. So who then would have built such a sophisticated irrigation system, which no one knew about until this recent LiDAR survey? And it doesn't seem that the so-called builders, the Sautelairs, were the builders of this.
While the study continues to credit the construction of Nan Madol to the Sautelairs, many researchers suggest that the oral history of the people of Pohnpei contradicts this notion.
This recent LiDAR survey is sensational because the big mystery about Nan Madol was always, where did the people get their food from or their water? And according to the local population, it had to be boated in. But if you now look at this new LiDAR survey, which suggests that there is an artificial irrigation system on Temwin, well, they could have collected the water right there, and this leads me to think that the Sautelairs appropriated whatever was at Temwin Island and Nan Madol.
Does the LiDAR survey prove that the conventional theories crediting the Sautelairs as the creators of Nan Madol are wrong? But if so, who built Nan Madol and why? September 2019. Intrigued by the results of the recent LiDAR survey, ancient astronaut theorists Giorgio Tsoukalos and David Childress embark on a journey to the remote island of Pohnpei. They are hoping to find evidence that could shed new light on what has become a centuries-old mystery.
Here we are.
It's exciting. This expedition is the first for Giorgio, but David's 5th visit to the megalithic site.
All right, Lou.
Hi, Gus. This is our guy.
How are you, Gus? Good to see you.
At Mangrove Bay on the island's north shore, Giorgio and David meet up with Micronesia's National Historic Preservation Officer, Gus Kohler.
So ready to go?
Let's get going, yeah.
Okay.
From here, they will travel by boat to Nan Madol.
Nan Madol is one of the last ancient mysteries that I have yet to see, and it's been 30 years since I've wanted to come here, and I cannot wait to see what awaits us, and what better guide than David Childress.
Nan Madol is the 8th wonder of the world. It's one of the most amazing megalithic sites that I've ever seen, but it's very little known. The archaeologists who come here...
What do they say?
Yeah, how do they say it was made, Nan Madol?
Everyone has their own theory.
Different theories.
If you imagine, if you carry it, you know, it's a very uneven terrain. You've got mountains, you've got valleys, you've got
very
water.
rugged.
Very rugged.
Very rugged.
And then the question of putting it or having it hung underneath a boat.
I mean, we've tried to carry logs, small ones on rafts, tried to imitate out. It's just impossible.
They can't do it.
Really? So you have actually tried.
We've tried. We've
to do it the way that mainstream archaeology suggests, And it didn't quite work.
Not with the rafts that we had.
According to mainstream scholars, bamboo rafts transported the blocks used in the construction of Nan Madol. But Gus Kohler does not agree. As far as he's concerned, this method has repeatedly been tested and has failed, even when the smallest of basalt columns are used. One of the most recent attempts was made for a television documentary in 1995.
After several attempts, they were unable to demonstrate how this would be done, even with smaller blocks weighing only 1 ton.
After a 90-minute boat ride, David and Giorgio get their first look at the massive basalt walls of Nan Madol.
All right, so here we go. Here's the massive seawall here, but it's just huge. Look at these giant stones, how they're piled up here. But it's
incredible.
It's huge. It's just 250 million tons of basalt just piled up and into giant walls and artificial islands. It boggles the mind. It's so incredible.
I mean, some of these blocks are just massive, massive.
Yeah, huge.
The first time I laid eyes on Nan Madol, I thought it was prehistoric. This place potentially is thousands of years older than what mainstream archaeology suggests.
Nan Madol astounds you when you see it, but most archaeologists really don't want to open this Pandora's box of what is there on this island because it's not easily explained by mainstream archaeology.
Rufino Mauricio, the director of the Federal States of Micronesia Office of National Archives, is among many who believe that the secret to Nan Madol's origins may not be a terrestrial one.
The existence of Nan Madol itself continues to puzzle people because it welcomes all kinds of possibilities, including possibilities of people from the outer space influencing what was built here.
People from outer space? It is a question that Giorgio and David are determined to answer. And as the first step in their investigation, they are eager to make a closer examination of the site and investigate the details of its baffling construction.
Man, oh man. I mean, look how tall that is.
While visiting the ancient site of Nan Madol, ancient astronaut theorists Giorgio Tsoukalos and David Childress, along with their guide, Gus Kohler, and structural engineer Dr. Henry Burton, have traveled to the site of Nandawas, the royal mortuary said to belong to Nan Madol's original builders.
This is supposed to be the biggest stone here at
This cornerstone right here?
This thing, it's supposed to be the biggest of all the stones here.
Henry, do you think you can calculate the weight of this?
Yeah, we can certainly estimate it. I have a measuring tape. We can estimate the volume, and we know the density, so that can give us the mass.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah, so this is about 4 meters.
All right, here's the far corner here.
Using the dimensions and the density of one of the basalt stone blocks, Dr. Burton calculates its weight.
250, 2 meters 50.
All right, so based on the measurements, you're looking at a weight of about 54 tons.
54 tons,
Yeah,
then.
so 50 tons, give or take.
And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those monoliths essentially stacked on top of each other at a height of 40 feet.
So, Gus, what is then the oral history of moving this stone on the island?
Well, according to the legends, the stones were flown up here. Rocks were brought from the north and they were flown up here.
For generations, the people of Pompeii have told the story that Nan Madol was constructed by strange visitors through a process of levitation. It is this legend that has suggested to ancient astronaut theorists that Nan Madol is not only an ancient megalithic structure, it is also an extraterrestrial one.
So we have in the oral traditions a story about 2 brothers, Olusopa and Olusipa. they managed to construct what you know today as Nan Madol. According to oral histories, the stones flew to the Nan Madol area. How did they fly there, we don't know.
The two brothers who started Nan Madol, according to Phnom Penh legend, were foreigners. They were not from here, so we don't know where they were from.
According to legend, the twin sorcerers who created Nan Madol were of giant proportions, much like the legends of Easter Island, where it is said that giants magically floated the stone moai statues into place. Similar stories involving levitation are associated with numerous other megalithic sites. The Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt, the Uxmal Pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula, and Pumapunku in Bolivia.
There are other stories around the world that say the exact same thing, how gigantic stones were moved into place as if by magic. And you have to ask yourself, is there a connection? Did all of our ancestors receive the same knowledge from the extraterrestrials? And the answer to that is a resounding yes.
We've done scientific studies, and 40% of the rocks that comprise this site here came from the north. So it does kind of collaborate our oral legend that it came from the north. The other 60%...
Yeah, they don't know. I think they don't know where it came from. But it's not from here, right?
Nobody's been able to source that.
So, yeah, 60% of the stones, they don't know where they came from.
That's incredible. That the 60% is essentially still a mystery, yes? Huh.
For decades, mainstream archaeologists have been frustrated by their failure to identify the source for much of the basalt used in the construction of Nan Madol. But recently, a growing number of scientists have become convinced that it came from a volcanic outcropping located 25 miles northeast of Nan Madol, called Puisan Malak. The unusual formation extends over 400 feet into the air, and incredibly, the rock used to construct Nan Madol appears to have been extracted from the least accessible part of the mountain, the very top. But how? According to the oral history of Pompeii, the basalt was taken by what the natives referred to as a giant bird.
There's one story that says that at some point there were these giant roosters that lived on top of that mountain, and this rooster took these basalt blocks and flew them over to Nan Madol. Now, monster roosters do not exist, so my mind always goes to misunderstood technology, machines that were provided by the extraterrestrials.
I believe that the islanders are correct when they say all those stones were flown through the air, because I can't see how it was done in any other way.
As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the local legends, along with hard evidence that basalt appears to have been excavated from the top of Puisan Malak, add credence to the idea that advanced alien technology was used in the construction of Nan Madol.